Podawan podcast, everybody. Our show, Pod Between Worlds. And today we're going to discuss some updated Star Wars news related to The Mandalorian, Rogue One, and then we're going to break down the Clone Wars episode that came out this weekend, which was a banger. So it's all coming up.
All right, welcome back. Today, we just wanted to go over. Actually, Steve dropped it in the intro. Our new name for the podcast, because we're going to be doing that gaming one. So the instead of just the Podawan as our podcast, that's going to be our channel name as it is right now. And our new name for this Star Wars podcast is the Pod Between Worlds. So next week, or I guess this week, will be our first Pod Between Worlds podcast officially, and I will have the logo and some new graphics up for next week. So we'll do our official revealing of that next week. All right, so let's hop right into it. So there's not a ton of news, obviously, like we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, because we're in a weird dead period between the High Republic stuff coming out and the new Mandalorian season. But there have been a few things. One being this new Mandalorian documentary that's coming out May the 4th, which is that big Star Wars day. And I've read a little bit into it, but it just looks like it's kind of a behind-the-scenes documentary of how the first season was made. So I'm sure we'll get some interesting insights. Did you read about it at all?
No, I just wonder if so is that going to be replacing Star Wars Day celebration, Star Wars celebration?
No, Star Wars Celebration was later. That got canceled. That was another piece of news. So that's officially canceled, which is a bummer, but we kind of knew that was coming with the whole coronavirus thing. Yeah. But no, May the 4th is just kind of, you usually get a little bit of news because May the 4th be with you. It's like an unofficial Star Wars day. So it'll be dropping on that, day, the Mandalorian documentary. So it'll be interesting to see what we get from it.
Yeah.
I think they just released a couple like episode prologue kind of things, descriptions. So it'll be interesting to see Filoni and Favreau and just kind of some of the putting togethers of that show, and maybe we'll get a glimpse into some season 2 stuff, or at least some hints or something, you know.
It's actually kind of funny watching this weekend. We were watching Iron Man 2, and then you see Favreau in it, and it's just like, this is one of the creators of Star Wars. This is the Mandalorian, and seeing him on the TV screen. But it is what it is. He's
a funny actor. He was in that like the adults like vacation away from kids. Remember that, where they all go with like Vince Vaughn, and they all go to like an island, and he's in a bunch of stuff.
He was in, actually, here's a weird one. In Elf, he was the doctor in Elf.
Okay.
Yeah, we checked out what Buddy's dad or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, Jon Favreau is the doctor. That's so weird.
That's funny.
I didn't realize how old Elf actually is, but it's just like, oh god.
Yeah, I mean, he's dude. He's been incredible, launching Iron Man and really the MCU at that point, and then what he's done for Star Wars so far. Dude's on fire.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff. So, yeah, he's maybe he should replace Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of the. I agree in terms of just he has a better feel for Star Wars. I don't know the business side of it enough. Like people say, like, and we've talked about, Filoni should be the next Kathleen Kennedy, but like,
yeah,
Catherine, that position is like corporate, right? And Filoni's like a creative, so I don't know if that's the position you want him in. I want him in charge of more stuff, but yeah, Kathleen Kennedy's job, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? But Favreau maybe. I don't know. I think that's more of Feige's role in the MCU is kind of what Kathleen Kennedy does for Star Wars.
Yep.
So maybe we get Feige. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, I think Star Wars desperately needs it. It sounds like they're going in that direction, though, with the High Republic and everything.
But yeah, I mean, the biggest issue is, like, I feel like she needs to focus on the business side of it, which is fine, but, like, let the creatives do creative stuff. Like, stop. It just seems like there's so many, like, red tape. You know what I mean? when there's such an opportunity to do some really cool stuff.
I mean, part of it too that I mean they have the established canon and everything, but
Right.
one of the things I was thinking about is that with Legends, you know how Legends there was kind of like anybody could kind of write anything they would want with
Yeah, it would
Legends
get
in a
like it was
sense.
kind of funky. Yeah, there were certain like legends that were approved by Lucasfilm and then not.
What
So there's a whole like it was even more
what if
confusing.
what if there was like a balance between that though? Like if they kind of maybe that's what they're doing with the High Republic. I don't know, but
Well, I
um
think the bummer is I think there is kind of a balance. I think the books and the comics don't count to them. Like the movies can
yeah.
just do whatever they want in a certain way. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, which doesn't make sense, but
right.
it's all good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no. I think it'll be. I think the High Republic, like we've talked about, will be great. But no, it'll be getting off topic. We can talk about it for hours. But I think this behind the scenes will be neat. It'll be neat to see kind of some of the different ideas that Filoni and Favreau had, and how it came to the screen. There'll be neat
Yeah.
stuff. Um, the other news that I saw was this kind of the same idea. They had, I think it was Charles Whitta and I think it's Chris Weitz, were the writers of,
It's Gary Whitta.
and there was one other guy, another writer or something. But Whitta's the main, yeah, the guy that most people know. Um, the
He
writers
also
of
wrote
Rogue One.
he wrote Book of Eli too,
Nice.
and a
So
bunch of other stuff.
they had like an Ask Me Anything, I think, kind of thing, or like kind of like
Yep.
an interview, and he talked about a lot of different storylines that were going to happen in Rogue One and kind of how it all came together. And it's pretty neat. It's a good. It's good to scroll through. However you do it, I think there's a video, but you can also scroll through Reddit pages and you can read kind of what the question and answer kind of stuff. But there's a bunch of different things. Just to give you like a little taste of one of the things I thought was really neat was Boar Gullet was supposed to be like this creepy, not really an alien, more described as like a human that
Yeah.
had some, and it probably wasn't human, but some kind of like alien race that's humanoid. It wasn't supposed to be this big squid thing. And his like whole thing was he like almost fed on like terrible memories, like repressed memories and stuff, and that like he could like psychologically torture you. And they used him, and basically the original way it went was basically Jin had to like trade her like childhood memories of like
Yeah.
all the her parents dying and stuff like that, to get access to the Death Star code or whatever, or the transmission from
Oh,
her
okay.
dad.
Yeah.
Just kind of an interesting spin on it, and it's why it's always fun to see where ideas started and what they became, for good, for better, for worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
talks a little bit about the big thing that I think we mainly knew because everybody was like, "Oh, why were there so many scenes of like Jin running on the beach with the like the tape thing?"
Yep.
In the previews and in the original thing, the where they go in and get that isn't the same. There's two towers. That they have to get the data from one and then run across the beach to get to the one that sends the signal, and then they just consolidated it in the actual movie where like the place that they get the Death Star plans is also the tower to send it out. So that's why those scenes aren't in there, which
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, it's all just editing stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That definitely seems like that was the right way to go. Simpler.
Yeah, I mean there's little things. But you should check it out if you're interested. There's a bunch of stuff in there, like all different backgrounds for Jin and what she was supposed to be, and Lyra, her mother, was going to be a Jedi at one point. You know what I mean,
Yep.
like a failed Jedi at one point or something. So there's a bunch of different storylines. So it's always interesting to see how full circle they come, especially for a movie I really like. I think was really well done. So it's interesting to see how the ideas evolved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Rogue One is definitely top five for me, easy. I mean, it's not even. I think it's second or third for me.
Hmm.
But it's just another thing on Gary Whitta too, which is interesting. He's very big into video games too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so one of the podcasts I listen to, kind of funny. He is on there every Wednesday. They call it Whitta Wednesday,
Okay.
and so he's always talking about video games and stuff. So like that's actually when
Nice.
I found out that he was Rogue
He
One
should
writer.
write a good Star Wars video game.
Oh God, he
I've
probably
been,
doesn't want to
dude,
get
I've
into
been
that
following
shit.
up so much, and I haven't seen anything. Remember that leak we did a couple weeks ago about
Yeah,
Mavericks or
that's
Maverick?
talking to the, yeah.
Still, it came out on that PS5 store, like just as like a like coming up, and there's just been nothing since. Like I've scoured the internet. There's no other leaks, which is weird. I figured something would come out shortly after that. You know what I mean? Not
Well,
like
you
the
got
whole thing, but like you'd get more information.
well, you got to think too that with the pandemic and everything, it's probably got to push shit back too.
Yeah.
I'm sure
No,
because
absolutely.
they can't. I mean, I don't know how good remote working is for making a video game, but I know that
I think
it's
there's
kind
some
of better to
technical
have
things you
people.
can do, but I think it's tough to
Yeah,
collaborate. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I think
but
there's a lot of, especially the design aspects, a lot of like plug it in, sketch it up, show somebody, oh, that's cool, but do this. You know what I mean? And that's tough to do over Zoom.
yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um, that's it for me for the news. I think you had one other thing with not Matt Lanner, sorry. The other voice, Sam Witwer.
Well, there was a couple things. So
Yep.
first off, the first thing was kind of related to Mandalorian season two. Taika Waititi,
Oh yeah,
he
yeah.
does
This is a
not.
bummer.
Yeah, he doesn't direct any of the episodes in season two. That's due to his scheduling conflicts with I'm sure with Love and Thunder, the Thor
Yeah,
movie coming up, and
definitely
with
good to
all
hear. It
those
wasn't that he
fucking
didn't want to, but it is a bummer
yeah,
that he just
that
wasn't
he's not
available.
doing it.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that came out, and
Oh,
then
actually, before you start, along the same line, sorry, The Mandalorian. Did you see that? There's like a rumor that Fennec Shaw didn't die. Fennec Shan didn't die because that actress
I
they want her
saw
to.
that.
She's
I'm not.
back. I could have swore she wasn't dead in that thing.
I
I
don't know.
thought that whole time because they left that storyline kind of blank. I went back and looked and like brightened it up, and those boots do not look like Gideon. I'm not convinced it's Boba Fett. I know there's a whole sound thing that goes with Boba Fett that's in there, which is
Yeah.
interesting. I'm not convinced it's Boba Fett, but I'm pretty convinced after watching it that it's not. That it wasn't Gideon. I thought that was the whole point of the scene. You know what I mean? That Gideon was like just one step behind them at that point. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't Gideon, which I'm almost 100% positive after like lighting it up, being a nerd and like lighting up the scene and like looking at the boots, they're not his boots. So it's not Gideon. Then who is it, and what is the purpose of that scene? It literally has no purpose in the first season because the first season's over. You know what I mean? If that's not
Yeah.
Gideon, that whole last scene is a setup for something that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like doesn't play any role in the rest of the season. So something's up there. So it is neat to hear because I thought she was kind of wasted too. I thought she was kind of cool. It was so quick, and then that Corellian douche just shoots her.
Yeah. I don't know. She was.
I mean, she
That
played a
episode.
role, but I thought it was a cool. I thought they
Yeah.
could have done
That
more with it.
her, whatever about. I didn't particularly like her character that much, but I mean, it was kind of weird that they just kind of just she dies
Right, like right off the
supposedly and
bat.
that's it. Like
Yeah,
that's just so that's why I think when we were reviewing the episodes, that's why I said it was like it's filler. It felt like a filler episode, and then you see the last scene, and it's like, oh wait a second, what does this mean? But at the same
it'd be
time, it's
wild
like,
if that was set like well, obviously not that wild. They know what they're doing, but
yeah,
kind of a cool throwaway scene that means nothing. That you're kind of like, what the fuck? And then the first season ends, and there's so much other shit going on that I don't think I went. Wait a minute, that had nothing to do with the whole which makes you go, okay, that's there for a completely other reason.
yeah, that's true. I think the other thing I saw was that Sam Witter. I don't know how this
Whitwer.
is. Whitwer. Whitwer. So he voices Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and actually in Rebels as well. But he was originally supposed to be the voice for Kanan in Rebels, and he actually Freddie Prince Jr. then auditioned for the role for Kanan, and he actually said like Rebels. Let's see. He said, and then they found Freddie after they heard Freddie's audition. I've got to be honest, I had a certain take on the character, and what I was doing was not better than what Freddie was doing. What Freddie was doing was better than what I was doing, in my opinion. I realized that when I saw it, I was like, wow, this guy's absolutely that character. I think that's the way to go.
That's cool.
So
He's
that's
done
pretty
so
cool.
much in Star Wars too, Whitwer.
Yeah.
He's done a bunch of voices, and he also was famously like Star Killer. from the
Yeah.
Force Unleashed video games, and like his
Yep.
like the character is based off of his look too.
Yeah.
So and he's like a big time Star Wars fan and nerd.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's cool to hear
Yeah.
that.
And it's good that he's praising another actor for like their interpretation of a character that he was originally slated to have. So that's really cool that he was praised him for what he did rather than
Yeah.
you don't really see a lot of I don't
Yeah, you get jealous and you know what I mean. Just kind
yeah
of
you,
yep.
you you see that we don't really see that with Star Wars as much. I at least I don't feel like we've seen a ton of that kind of drama
Yeah,
or
which is
that
cool.
kind of stuff. So it seems like everybody kind of respects each other for the work that they do and everything, the roles that they have. So it's
Yep.
really cool. Besides that, I don't have any other news.
No, I think that's it.
It was a light week for news.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we can hop into our Cantina Talk segment about Clone Wars.
Yeah, let's dive right in. We got the what episode is this? 7?
Episode 9.
9. Okay.
Episode 9. So season 7, episode 9, Clone Wars came out this past Friday, and it was awesome. I thought it was awesome.
Felt like a movie.
Yes.
Or at least a short movie, but it felt like it could have been like I feel like when we go back and watch, we will watch this whole arc like a movie.
Yep.
It even had a different intro, like
Yep.
the Lucasfilm Limited thing. They kind of did it up.
Yeah.
So initial thoughts, obviously, great, best one so far, right? We're finally getting to the meat and potatoes. You still like Bad Batch more than this one?
God, you know what? I do like it. It's close. I mean, the Bad Batch was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
This episode was obviously a setup episode. So you can't necessarily. Yeah, I would put up there. I mean, it was probably top 3 for me easily. It was a great episode. I didn't see anything that I was like, yeah, why'd they do that? Or, this is just filler, or it is like it was all action paced. There was a lot of development. There was a lot of characters that came back that we haven't seen a lot of this season, which was kind of nice. I don't know if you want to dive into that part of it.
I mean, I have my notes for the episode, but no, you can get into that.
You have
that
your
part.
Notes.
Yeah.
You take notes.
Yeah, I go back and watch it and just write stuff down because I'll forget it. Like I know what happened in the episode. I write down like little like things that I would forget. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times for me, I don't do it the first time. I watch it the first time, and then I go back at some point in the next couple days and rewatch it and just pay attention, because I notice that a lot of things that are references that I immediately get and don't process as like, oh, that's neat. Someone may not notice that. You know what I mean? And that means a lot more. I just, when I'm watching it, like I pretty much understand all those references. So the first time I watch it, I'll not catch stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'll just be enjoying it because it makes sense to me. And then the second time when I go through, I notice a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, that's probably something to point out, because maybe not everyone is going to know that. And not only are they not going to know that, but that's like a big lore piece. You know what I mean?
Just want to say what's going on, F Keeper. Just said hi, what's up?
Oh,
if
nice.
you have any questions for us, shoot us a question. We'll answer it on the air. So diving into it. So we see the return of Anakin and Ahsoka.
Yeah, awkward.
Yeah, very, very awkward. It just it was awkward, but it also wasn't that bad. I like the reunion. It kind of ended on a good note, I thought too. Especially since it's probably the last time they're gonna see each other.
Yes.
At this point,
it should be. If they do, it'd be very tough to link this with the Revenge of the Sith, because that's one of the big questions I had. I know we talked about it. Is when is this arc exactly going to take place, and how are they going to play it off? Because this arc is we knew it was taking place during Revenge of the Sith, and how it was going to interact interested me, but we jumped right in. I mean, really, at the midway through the episode, right about the halfway point, they
It
get the
was
call that
the
Palpatine,
battle.
yeah, the Battle of
The
Coruscant,
battle. Yeah, I don't think
which is the
Palpatine was
beginning
even.
mentioned
I don't
as
think.
captured yet. Well, they
Yeah.
said Shaak Ti was this is another one of my note things from like super nerdy stuff, but they said Shaak Ti was guarding Palpatine, and Windu hadn't heard from her, so they weren't sure where Palpatine was.
Right.
But that's from that original Clone Wars cartoon, the Tartakovsky ones. That it's a little more like Samurai Jack, the guy who did
Yep.
that animated it. That's like a nod to that because that's exactly what happens in that version of the Battle of Coruscant.
Yeah. Yeah. That was. Yeah. It was interesting where the timeline. Where it was placed.
Yeah, I thought it
So.
was really neat. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to
No,
interrupt
no,
if
it's
that.
fine. No, it's fine. What were you gonna say?
Before I get into like the nitty gritty, like little things I saw and call outs, I just think, and I think this is more when we get into this arc. I thought the setup is awesome for a lot of like little questions that don't plague Revenge of the Sith, but like if you really get into it, like how all these things interconnected, like them at the beginning saying like basically a bunch of random battles have broke out in the Outer Rim, and that's Palpatine causing that to get all the Jedi away from Coruscant, right? So that only certain ones are left. And that thins the herd, right? So these are all the setups. We see Plo Koon, I think he's on Cato Nemoidia. They don't mention that.
Yeah.
They show.
Yeah.
They
They
say
do.
in the. They say Cato Nemoidia. Oh, whatever.
It was in the opening crawl.
Okay. So they show Plo
When they call Plo
Koon.
Koon went there.
They show Aya Sakura. I just read these names. I never say them out loud sometimes. She's on Felucia. Yeah, so they show them all kind of like spreading out. Yeah, which is kind of part of the plan. Which I thought was interesting. You know what I mean? And then obviously the whole Battle of Coruscant thing, and it sets it off. But
how long does Revenge of the Sith take? Like,
I think I read something the other day that it's like 9 days. Or
yeah, I was gonna say it's not long.
But some of the other stuff is like when Luke drops. Basically it's like I think the Battle of Coruscant into Obi-Wan getting sent to Utapau is like a 2-day period. And then like all the shit breaks loose in like day 3, day 4, I think. And then I think like day 5, day 6 is like the Mustafar Anakin Obi-Wan fight.
Yep.
But yeah, so back to the episode, right? So we jump right in. So this will be taking place. And how many more episodes do we have? We have 2 more after this, or 3 more. 3 more. So I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see if we get. I can't imagine, and this was what I was interested in. I can't imagine we're not going to get some, because we're going to have 3 episodes. And if obviously we've watched Clone Wars, rarely does a whole episode or a whole arc not leave one point of view, right? So like they have a lot of things going on with obviously Bo-Katan, and they have Ahsoka, and they have Rex. So maybe there's enough, but for 3 episodes, I feel like we're going to get some flashes of parts of Revenge of the Sith. I don't think we're just going to be stuck on Mandalore the whole time. Maybe we will be, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't have
no, it's
no insight in that.
just interesting to me because there's a lot of time left. So there's I mean, as much as there is to do, 3 full episodes left. Basically, you have Maul being caught. We know basically Maul gets caught in a kind of a trap, and then gets away because of Order 66. That all comes down. So like this has to kind of play out. So it's gonna be really interesting.
So it has to play out over, was it 2 to 3 days? So there has to be, there's probably gonna be some Revenge of the Sith stuff then. There has to be, because the Order 66 part is gonna be a big.
I wonder who's gonna take the call too for Order 66, because Rex doesn't have the chip and doesn't do it. So
why doesn't Rex have the chip?
He took it out in one of the early in the Clone Wars episodes. He gets it taken out. He's part of the but maybe it's interesting because maybe they don't get the call because technically there's no Jedi with them. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Because Ahsoka's not a Jedi. So, all right. So let's
Yeah.
get into some of the like the nitty gritty kind of like call out things that I noticed
All right.
that may add something to someone's viewing of it if they didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, First thing that popped up was the Fulcrum call. I'm sure you
Yep.
noticed
Heard
that, but
that.
that was
Yeah.
one of
Oh
the
yeah.
things that
Right away.
didn't see. So that's a good example. For me, I was just like, okay, Fulcrum. Oh, that's cool. It was Saw Gerrera originally, blah, 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 blah. But it didn't like click like, oh, I need to mention that. You know what I'm saying? But that's
Yeah.
really interesting that it was Anakin's. It was a subspace call sign, I think, that Anakin used, and
Yep.
basically when it came through, they both thought it was Saw Gerrera. So it seems as though that was specifically used for Saw Gerrera. Obviously, Ahsoka knew about it because she's um, Anakin's Padawan. So I thought
Mhm.
that was really interesting because that's probably going to be the origin of what that is. I don't think it's going to go back further than that. You know what I mean? So that's
That's
neat that they
because that's
carry
what
that
she
on.
uses in the. That's what she uses in the novel as her name.
Right, and then that's what it's a position basically is what it
Yeah.
turns into, and that's what Diego. I always say Diego Luna instead of Cassian. Cassian Andor's what he is, and there may be more in between there too. So that was one. It didn't bother me. I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool use of reintroducing Ahsoka's lightsabers to her, but it does. This is one of those like nitpick things. It doesn't really bother me, but it is odd after everything they've explained of how like lightsaber colors work in the new
Yeah.
canon. Like, so what does Anakin just find new lightsaber crystals that aren't really attuned to anyone, and he chooses blue? I don't know. It seems weird for everything that they've set up with the Jedi that they go and find a crystal and attach to it, and it becomes a color based on
Yeah.
their personality. So for her to just get given blue lightsaber seems odd in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't understand that part, especially since the Ahsoka novel kind of explains that more in depth too.
Yeah. Right. The whole
Which
bleeding of the crystals and then purifying
yeah,
them and this whole yeah.
the whole
I mean,
process. So
there
that's
are
why it's kind of
crystals, so I
odd.
guess you can just put. It's not that there aren't lightsaber crystals other than ones bonded to you. You can make a lightsaber without the Force.
Right.
It's just the whole point of the Jedi thing is that they're like connected with the crystal. So it just seems odd to me that Anakin would give them back to her
Yeah.
without her crystals in them, I guess is what happens. Again, just a weird canon nitpick thing. I know that it was done specifically to make it new, and it's a revamped thing. It's not a big deal. It's just a weird choice to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't understand that part.
I thought there were a lot of interesting. So I this whole thing is set up like we've talked about how if you're interested in Anakin's fall, the Clone Wars cartoon is the greatest thing ever. Now it's
Yeah.
just becoming almost like a necessity to watch this because this whole episode is basically Anakin in the middle
Yeah.
listening to Obi-Wan, who he completely believes in like and trusts, but Obi-Wan is basically playing the Jedi Council in this like he's basically an amalgamation of what the Jedi Council has become, like no
Yeah.
feelings, all this stuff, and it just constantly. And then Ahsoka is basically, I think, what Anakin thinks he could become, like, or what the Jedi need to be. They need to drop
Mhm.
some of this dogmatic, blind, like we're the best kind of thing. You know what I mean? And just get back to like helping
Just
people.
like church type of shit.
Yeah, it's just like they believe in them. Like they've gone so far down the road of this war and being high and mighty that they've
It's like
completely lost their way. And
their
Anakin's one of
self
the
righteousness.
right, exactly. And Anakin sees it, and Ahsoka is this personification of like what I think he thinks the good side of it could be. Like she left, and she is still very much. She's maybe more of a Jedi now than
Yeah.
a Jedi now than she was when she was with the Order. So she represents that, and you see. And as much as I love Obi-Wan, and he's not as bad as like Yoda and Windu and the High Council, but he is like that. He just plays the personification of the Jedi Council in this thing, right? Like he gets called out by Bo-Katan. Didn't, the whole like, didn't you love my sister? You know what I mean? You never cared about her to begin with. So, and he completely goes, no, I completely cared about her, but I'm not going to let my feelings cloud my judgment. He says all the lines are like perfect to the, like, not going to cloud my judgment, which in a nutshell in this case is probably the right move. But it's the whole point is Anakin's watching this going, man, dude, like, we got to find a way to help them. You know what I mean? And then at the end, I thought the best thing, and again, the whole time I felt weird because they're pinning this role on Obi-Wan because he's the one there, and I don't think Obi-Wan's to blame. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the whole, when they get the call from the Chancellor and he comes running in, and Ahsoka's like, your job is to help people, and he's kind of like, well, look, the capital of the Republic is under attack. Like, we need to help those people. And she goes, you're not going to help those people. You're going to help Palpatine. It's politics. And he's kind of like, she's like, Mandalore needs you. Those people need you. And that's what Jedi should do. So I thought it was interesting because it's this whole, and Anakin's just like the viewer. He barely says anything in any of these things. He just goes like, what the Jedi Council wants me to do, which is kind of dogmatic and is kind of politics, and it's not what I completely believe in. And then Ahsoka's like the good version of what I think Anakin wanted to turn into. As we know, he just he leaves the Jedi Order, but he follows the dark side. He doesn't actually leave to become better, Yeah. So I think she's almost like this weird version of like what Anakin should have become.
Yep.
He should have left, or he should have disagreed with a lot of it, but he shouldn't have gone dark. And the whole thing is because of the Padme thing. That's the whole reason it all goes to shit, Yeah.
I mean, it's Obi-Wan, probably one of my favorite characters, and just seeing him like saying, oh, I can't let my feelings cloud my judgment. It was kind of like, oh God, dude, you're making me hate you in this episode.
It's a weird double standard because he's right in that immediate moment, but it's more of like what he's saying is the overall shittiness of the, you know what I mean? Like
the other problem too that they have is that Jedi were supposed to be peacekeepers, but they weren't supposed to be
generals.
Right. War commanders. So like, I think if people are like shitting on the Jedi, like, let's just say, they were self-righteous, they were arrogant, they were, high and mighty above everybody. Like, yeah, they had all those characteristics. What they also had to deal with, though, is that they were fucking commanding these huge clone armies that they weren't necessarily supposed to be doing in the first place.
It's all Palpatine. This is the whole
they got
plan.
dragged into it.
Yeah.
And then people started like, they didn't like the Jedi. Some people started having a bad view of them.
He forced them into impossible situations. That's what happened.
Much.
Yeah.
So like with Obi-Wan, it's kind of like, he's got all that weighing on him. And then he's like, I guarantee he'd probably want to help.
He
it's
does.
Not like he doesn't want to.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like, well, he's probably in his head, well, I'm also a fucking commander. I need to, if Coruscant's under attack, I gotta help Coruscant, because if Coruscant goes down, well, then we're fucked. It's like,
and Anakin is watching Obi-Wan make that choice while sitting there going, I don't think that's the right choice, because he's hearing Ahsoka say it's not the right choice.
And it actually was not the right choice because
in
of
the
what
end
happens to Anakin. Yeah. So,
but they were all getting played by Palpatine.
Yeah, Palpatine was.
I rewatched a little bit of Revenge, not to get too much on a tangent, but I rewatched a little bit of Revenge of the Sith just to kind of get the timeline down in my head, and this is again these things when I rewatch it, I totally forgot the whole, and I don't think I noticed it at first because I just knew the fall was coming. Palpatine's little maneuvers in Revenge of the Sith are unbelievable too. Like he puts, I totally forgot, he puts Anakin on the council.
Yep.
To basically spy for him, and he tells Anakin, like, I just don't trust him, but I trust you. But he's raising Anakin to where Anakin thinks he should be on the council, so he's playing that whole thing against Anakin, yet he knows the Jedi Council is going to be shitty about it and be like, all right, well, you're on the council because the Chancellor wants it, but we're not giving you rank of master, almost spitefully, and that pisses Anakin off, and then they make Obi-Wan ask him to spy on Palpatine, and Anakin's like, dude, he's my friend and like a mentor. I'm not spying on him. And then that whole move was all Palpatine knew exactly that all was going to happen, and it just plants another seed in Anakin's mind that he's like, damn, the Jedi are like high and mighty, and they're asking me to spy on the Senate. Like, what? Like, aren't we? We're supposed to support the Senate. Like, you know what I mean? So it's so brilliant.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So yeah, no, I mean just the little things, and it's all about Anakin, right? And this episode I feel like is just that's what stood out to me is what I'm saying is they just made Obi-Wan basically the Jedi Council. They put Anakin in the middle, and they made Ahsoka what Anakin sees as what could happen without the Jedi Council. What Jedi should be, you know what I mean? And he ends up making the right choice to kind of leave, but the wrong choice, he doesn't become better, he becomes darker. You know what I mean? But I just thought it was really interesting. So what else do we have? Oh, super interesting line. So sometime around, I don't know exactly when it happens, but sometime around when they paint the helmets and Ahsoka sees it. I think it's right before when they walk into that room. Ahsoka's talking about, why do they keep calling me Commander? Anakin, I didn't notice this the first time either. Anakin drops this line. He goes, he goes, loyalty is everything to them. And they're like, just to play on the Order 66 thing, that they have no control over their loyalty and they'll shoot all the Jedi. I just thought that was like a cheeky little like, oh, they're loyal to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just wait.
Except
just
when
wait,
the chip flips or whatever.
Yeah, it's I mean that whole scene with the with her getting the sabers and the army and everything, it was awesome. I really like that reunion.
I also wish they had Rex wear that helmet. He doesn't wear her helmet. He wears his normal helmet. Like I wish they had him. I wish they did a weird like combination of like made his helmet like, because he has like the wolf ears. You know what I mean? Like almost like added something to it, but no, he just wears his normal helmet. Yeah. So they split up. Anakin is the one who pulls the cool move. He goes, well, she's not a commander. Obi-Wan's like, she's not a commander. I can't split up the 501st. So he makes Rex the captain, and then Ahsoka's the advisor. So that was a neat little play around, right? It answers the question of where's Ahsoka, and kind of more importantly, where's Rex during... Yeah, so that answers that. I thought that battle when they go to Sundari, the capital of Mandalore, that air battle, I need that in live action. Can you imagine seeing like the jetpacks flying through the clone troops and Ahsoka? Oh, dude, that would have been unbelievable.
Episode 3,
right?
It was like
right.
It was very
but all in the air. Imagine that.
Every way. I mean that. Secondly, the Mandalorian city. I'd love to see that in live action too.
That would look really cool. The weird like bubble city. Cool. Yeah.
It's like it's almost like a cyberpunk like
very much
mecha type deal. It's wicked cool. Like and it just
and yet they're
a whole realm
like
of Star Wars we don't have in the movies.
And yet they're super like futuristic middle age, like feudalism, like kind of called like
it's weird.
It's a very odd thing. We get to see the Maldalorians, right? The Mandalorians all dressed in red, Gar Saxon, and they brought back Rook Cast from the Son of Dathomir comic. I finally got that and read through it because I was like, oh, all right, it's canon now, and some of this stuff matters. So they look really cool. They have the really neat like gold visors.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty cool.
It was cool to see the Gar Saxon, the Saxon clan, and everything. Like
it made him look a little younger with the 5 o'clock shadow. I thought that was neat. Yeah, from his cool. Rebel things. Yeah.
And it all play in. If for anyone listening or watching, this all plays into the Mandalorian too. Like this,
all of it will more and more
as all of this comes out. Like later on, this is way more important. What's going on?
Yeah, I thought Almac's armor was really cool. It was like green and gold.
Almac moved pretty good.
I thought he was just like a politician. I didn't know he could fight. Yeah, but it makes sense because he was kind of right. But he was also the one that was kind of on the court with Satine, faking because he was with Pre Vizsla. He believed in the old ways, so he probably was training in the background. It does make sense. He just always came off as a kind of like a floozy.
Douchebag.
Well, he is a douche, but I didn't think he could fight.
It was interesting. Bo-Katan, my favorite.
Yeah,
awesome. Love her.
Yeah, and Ursa Wren makes another appearance. She's apparently watching the city for if Maul leaves. And Maul makes his appearance at the end there, and he seems pissed. He's like,
Yeah,
"Why are you here?"
yeah, because he wanted Obi-Wan,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
it was a good episode. It was yeah, there was a lot of action, love, yeah, everything about it. It was a really good episode.
I think it'll definitely play as almost a. I mean, it is part one, but I think these last 4 episodes will play as a movie. You know what I mean? Someone will
Yeah,
edit it together. You know what I mean? Because it feels like, I don't know. It feels like they're not episodes. It feels like we just got a movie like cut at the first act. You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah,
oh, let's keep going.
yeah, and I think the episode was actually longer than a typical episode. I think it was like half
Maybe.
an hour,
Yeah,
so it was
could have
like
been.
8 or 10 minutes longer.
Um,
But
yeah, but really neat.
yeah,
I wonder what they'll do with Rookcast. I wonder if she'll survive. Maybe she's the armor.
yeah, maybe, I
You
don't
know.
know.
I wonder what they're gonna do with that. This is all again. It's interesting.
You think she's the
No,
armor?
no, no. I don't think she is. I'm just saying. I wonder. I'm just wondering because
Yeah,
I think the armor.
it can't be. I don't.
I don't think the
Bo-Katan is.
armor is gonna be a nobody. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
I think she is going to be a character that we know. Whether it's made as like a background. I could see them doing something like she was part of the Night Owls. She's like Bo-Katan's left hand woman kind of thing. You know what I mean? And she's never named, but they make her. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
she's not going to be a nobody. And I just wonder, especially the way that she revamps them in Mandalore, in the Mandalorian TV show, and she's kind of
yeah,
like the leader. Even the big guy listens to her like instantly. I wonder if maybe she has a background from like the pre-Vizsla, like the Death Watch, and it wasn't necessarily a good guy, because
yeah,
remember they talk about foundlings and everything, right? And Death Watch was the one that found Din Djarin.
yeah.
So are all of those Mandalorians at the time of the Mandalorian, like in the Enclave on I'm gonna forget the name of the planet, but with Grief Karga, are all of them in that Enclave? Are they all foundlings? In which case, were they all found by Death Watch? And now they all follow the armor. So it would make sense that she was part of that. But it could go to your theory
Yeah,
of the
maybe.
could be Bo-Katan. It'd be weird for them not to use the same voice.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
I don't think
Like,
it is, and I don't think it's Ursa Wren, but
well, the
she
thing with
has to be
Bo-Katan
connected to
too.
them, right?
Well, the thing with Bo-Katan too is that the chick that plays Bo-Katan, Kate Sackhoff,
Right.
like she could easily play her in real life. Like
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, that's why it would be weird not to use her. Like it
Right.
just
It just
unless it
doesn't
was
make
like a
sense.
scheduling thing or something like that. It doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
but
Yeah,
I feel like she still could have done like the voice at least, right?
she's known for. I mean, like she was in.
Battlestar Galactica is a big one, right?
Well, besides that, Bears beats Battlestar. She was in Longmire too,
Okay.
and she was
Yeah,
one of the
so
sheriffs, and she was like,
I think we're in agreement on that.
badass.
She's someone.
Yeah,
I don't think she is Bo-Katan. Um, it would be
and
interesting though, because people have
why would
mentioned
she
like the
do that?
armor has the points on her helmet,
Yeah, that's true.
and
Well, like
that was
when
kind of
those,
the Mandalorian thing. So maybe her helmet is like an amalgamation of everything she's been a part of, right? She has kind of the night owl thing. She kind of
yeah,
has spikes on the helmet, so maybe she made that as like just a completion of like everything that she's gone through, right?
yeah, and why would Bo-Katan be on Navarro too? Like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Well, they're all. It's the Night of a Thousand Tears, right? The Purge is what they called it, right?
Yeah,
Which is going to happen after Rebels.
no, but the
It's going to
purge.
happen in the Empire
Oh
timeline,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we
right?
haven't even
Remember, it's
seen.
super
Yeah,
confusing when I
yeah,
went through
that's
it. It's
right.
like it's tough to because the
I keep
last time we
forgetting the
see
purge
him,
is.
yeah,
I
I,
keep.
because that's what they called the Jedi Purge. So we thought it was
Yeah,
before. Something happens after Rebels when Bo-Katan takes back Mandalore. What we originally thought was the Empire then is in turmoil with Empire Strikes Back, and it just kind of they never go back to Mandalore. That's not what happens. They do go back to Mandalore and they fuck them up, and that's the Purge and the Night of a Thousand Tears and all this shit. So that's still completely unexplained, but that's how we get from Bo-Katan in the lead with the Darksaber to
got Moff
7 years
Gideon.
later, I guess, 10 years later, depending on how far before New Hope that was, to the Mandalorian, where they're like, "Oh, you're a Mandalorian? I thought they were extinct." Like, so there's something big that happens there, and they're gonna have to start to explain that.
Yeah, either they're gonna explain it or they need that Rebels. Maybe the sequel to Rebels might be that. Maybe it's a Great Purge.
Jeez,
That would be maybe. I mean, it is Filoni's baby, so
be a,
maybe
you
that's
know what
what.
they should do? That would be a sick movie.
I
They
know, but
come
they're
out
not
with
gonna
like
do it
they come
'cause
out
it's
with like
fucking Star Wars.
dude, they come
They
out with
will
like
not
5
do it.
seasons of Mandalorian, right?
Yeah,
And that story continues and the whole Baby Yoda thing, so that comes to its own conclusion. But they sprinkle in the little information about the Purge and the Night of 1,000 Tears that you learn a little bit more, right? And then they just drop a movie that's just all on Mandalore. That's all the the Purge thing.
they're not gonna do it. They're
It'd be
not
in
gonna,
like 10 years, dude. So
not gonna do
at
it.
that
I'm
point, there'll
telling
be
you.
new people in
It's
charge. No, I'm not. Of
fucking
course, they're not
Star
going to
Wars.
do it. I'm just saying that'd be awesome.
Fucking Disney. They don't like doing good things.
Maybe it'll be bought by like HBO at that point.
Yeah. Oh God. Then that would. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if HBO is much better than Disney. I think they're both.
They're darker. They don't have nearly the amount of money. Yeah, so that was pretty much it for me. I don't have my like complete notes list, but I think those are the major ones. The big thing that stuck out to me was the whole Anakin in the middle and seeing what Ahsoka's become without the Jedi Order, and seeing Obi-Wan playing the part of the High Council and being super self-righteous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know me and you were both bummed out that it's Obi-Wan because he's better than that, but it was for the purpose of the episode. You know what I mean? It needed to be done.
Yeah, it's I love the everything Mandalore, everything Mandalorian culture, anything related to this saga, I love. So I'm just excited that we're finally getting the Siege of Mandalore. We're just getting to see the.
I haven't told you yet, but well, before I get into this, do you have anything else on the episode?
No, it was
okay.
And hopefully, we should have said spoilers before it, but. It doesn't matter. Go watch.
You're not gonna watch a thing that's on the episode if you haven't watched it. It's just one episode. Yeah. So I wanted to mention a couple housekeeping notes. Obviously, we talked about last time we're gonna do the gaming podcast soon. Yeah. We mentioned at the beginning of the show this podcast will now be called The Pod Between Worlds.
Yep.
And we'll have some graphics for that next week, hopefully. I am just going to mention that I've written down a couple ideas of things because my studio is almost done being built. So I want to be able to do some videos back to like what we were doing before, like some of the Mandalore stuff. And one of the ideas I had, and I just figured I'd pitch it to you on the stream live, was I want to do like a...
Oh, great. So I have to...
No, just like an idea, because I talk in circles because there's like a diagram going on in my brain as I'm explaining it. You know what I mean? And it's tough to explain something that you're seeing in your mind. You know what I mean? So I've watched... I'll go back and find out who they are so that people can, if you're interested. But there's a couple YouTubers that I watch that are varying all over the place. Like I think one does video games, one does like politics, like one does world geopolitics or something. But they do like a chalkboard and they like lay it all out and go through it. And I thought it'd be really cool to do like a whiteboard series, like a dry erase marker series, and then pick a topic. And I think I could do a better job with the whiteboard explaining some stuff. So I've been kind of detailing out a couple of the first episodes I want to do. Man, I want to revisit Mandalore probably before the second season comes out, to just kind of after Siege of Mandalore, the Clone Wars comes out. So we'll have more of a complete timeline. And I want to do a whiteboard series on that. And one of the other ones I want to do is what I think is going on between Gideon, Baby Yoda, and where we end up in Rise of Skywalker, and Palpatine's whole surviving the fall and cloning in the First Order and the Final Order. And I think it'd be a lot easier for me to explain with a whiteboard to kind of draw out like what's going on at what time, because that's what's confusing is you're trying to explain three different things but also over a time period. You know what I mean? So you start to like explain something, you get 5 years down the line, and then you have to back up 5 years and go, this was happening.
So basically what I'm going to do is next time we post, like when we're going to do this whiteboard series, White Boys, we're going to, I'm just going to post a clip of House And when he
Yeah,
starts
yeah,
doing
yeah.
his ramblings, and I'll wait for
Exactly,
it. And just be like,
exactly. Yeah.
here's
Maybe
Ollie
I have
right
to get
here.
one of those, like the
And then I'll
glass
be
ones,
like
the see-through
Chase or
glass
something.
ones.
Or I'll just be Omar Epps, and I'll just be there
Yeah.
and just be like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm down with that. That sounds good. I mean, like it definitely can be confusing with a lot of the, the history and, I
Yeah.
mean,
I just think writing it
anything
down and
lore related.
visualizing is a little easier than, again, because a lot of these things, especially when you're doing a 30-year timeline, it's just really
Yeah,
tough because you start to explain one piece of it. And do you explain the piece at the time and then explain the other three pieces, or do you explain the one piece for all 30 years and then go back
yeah,
30 years and start with the second piece? Whereas if it's drawn out, you can kind of reference, you go, remember these guys? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
That's
I think
true.
it'll help. I think it'll be kind of a mix of like a beginner series, but beginner in the sense that you still have to, like, if you want to learn more about what's going on, uh, it won't be super like finely tuned, but it'll just be um, just generally what's going on to help people understand. Because I think it, especially when you start jumping between the series of movies, I think it starts to get confusing to some people who just are trying to understand, but there's just too much out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So that's it for me.
All right. So I think that wraps up our episode. We got a lot of cool things coming down the pipeline. So, like we've said in the last episode, we're starting a video game podcast show called Gaming Evolved, and
Yeah, next couple weeks.
that's just gonna be us talking about video games. And then our Star Wars show is gonna be called The Pod Between Worlds. If you don't know what that reference is, I'm gonna give you a hint. It's Star Wars Rebels. Go there, watch the show. You'll figure it out.
The world
Um,
between worlds.
yes, exactly. So, other than that, catch us on. We're always streaming on Twitch Live. Once we start the video games, we're gonna be. I'm sure Ollie here is gonna be start streaming his stuff a lot more.
Hopefully.
Same with me with video games. So, like what we're playing and stuff. So, uh, catch us on our YouTube channel if you miss our stream, and then on our podcast services. Look for the Podawan. That's going to remain our main brand because it's such a badass name. So other than that, we'll catch you later, Podawans.
Later.